Hi, my name is Reese.
And my name is Taryn, and this is Talking CAR.
We are members of the Jason Russell Society in Massachusetts. If you haven't heard of us yet, well, you have now.
In this monthly podcast, we are going to be talking all things CAR. Now let's get started.
Hello!
And welcome to Season 2 of our podcast, Talking CAR.
We are so excited to kick off our new season. We have so much in store for you guys this year.
One of our ideas for this year is we plan on doing more interviews.
We are going to sprinkle, along with our other ideas, with talking about the program packet when it comes out and different other normal episodes. We're going to be sprinkling in some interviews with past national presidents.
So one of the past national presidents actually reached out to us to give us this idea. His name is Kevin Spence Baker.
Yep.
So we thought it only fit to do him first. But before we get into the interview, I sadly was not able to be there during the interview. So Reese took over and did the interview. So I hope you enjoy.
My first question for you is, when were you national president?
I was elected national president in April of 2008, and so my term was 2008 to 2009.
And what was your national project and theme?
So the theme was ensuring American patriotism. My national project, I wanted to do something different because everybody picks a historical site and, we're going to renovate something or we're going to restore something and we're going to fix a chair or a stool or a lighthouse or things like that. And that's all great, But what I was thinking was, what if someone doesn't get to go to that location? You got kids that are less fortunate. You got people on the West Coast or the Midwest. They'll never be able to go see these things. So the majority of the revolution was on the East Coast, So with all these historical sites, if you don't have the money to go, you're never going to see it.
Yeah.
You're never going to really experience it or know anything about it. So what I did was I met with St. John's Church in Richmond, Virginia. That's where the famous Give Me Liberty or Give Me Death speech was by Patrick Henry. I met with the historical board there. I went on their first official heritage tour that they did, and I met with a bunch of press agents and the Public Broadcasting Network president, and we decided that we were going to create a DVD. A DVD was created with a complete reenactment of the Second Continental Virginia Convention, and they did the entire thing from beginning to end with a little bit of some history to it. And then once the DVD was published, my national project was to distribute a minimum of 100 DVDs per state in the United States. So the school superintendents could disperse them among their public libraries so teachers could check them out and play them in their classroom. If I'm someone in California or New Mexico or Texas and I'll never be able to go to Virginia and experience this, now we brought the experience to the classroom, which is essentially the foundation of what we're supposed to do is patriotic youth education. So I really took that to heart. My entire year was focused on the kids. It wasn't really focused on teenagers. It wasn't focused on the seniors. It was really focused on that age range between 5 and 16.
That's so cool. What is the name of the DVD and where can I find it?
Give Me Liberty or Give Me Death. Yeah, if you go to St. John's Church on their Facebook page, they have all their information, all their merchandise, and one of the pieces of merchandise is that DVD.
Another question is, did you accomplish your goal of getting the 100 CDs out to all 50 states in your year?
Absolutely. There's a little bit more extra that I could do.
And how old were you when you were national president? I know you said that you were one of the youngest national presidents. How old were you?
When I was elected, I had just turned 18. I had not yet graduated high school.
Wow.
I had an unusual time on national board because I'm one of those unique situations where I was a part of 3 different generations of national board members, because my first experience with national board was David Sweeney's year, which was 2001 to 2002. And then I really became well known on the national board between Melissa Oldie's year, which was 2003. So I was there for the tail end of the beginning of the 2000s. I was really instrumental from 2005 to 2009, and then I was somewhat still a part of it because I was a national president that was able to vote at national convention 3 times as honorary national president delegate. So that, unfortunately, I didn't make it to all 3. I only made it to 2, but it was unheard of for a national president to vote more than 1 year back to back as an honorary.
Wow, that seems like a lot of work for an 18-year-old.
I had a very good secretary, aka mom, for sure. I had an entire cabinet. My dad was the director of transportation. My sister handled all of my voicemails and did my voicemail on my phone, and my mom was my secretary handling all my paperwork.
Cool. And are there any interesting things or stories that happened on your regional tour? I know when we interviewed Jane Keegan, she told us about a story with an alligator. Was there anything interesting that happened on your tour?
We had all kinds of stories. My road buddy was honorary national president Ben Hinckley. So I think it's important to have one person on your board that, you kind of take under your wing and make a protege. So that protege, when you move on, he becomes, a leader, and then he takes on one, and then, your legacy and with bits and pieces of a new generation becomes part of it. Ben Hinckley and I rode up and down all 9 regions together, laughs, tears, arguments. But we had some pretty good stories.
Hi guys, this is Reese. Sorry to interrupt your interview, but this is where we would normally have a commercial, but more about that later. And so since Mr. Baker had to call in for the interview, there were some rough patches and we disconnected a few times. So here's where we left off. Enjoy.
I didn't really have a wild, crazy, I never had a car that broke down. I never got stuck. I did get arrested during a tour, but it was a joke. It was a joke.
Oh.
We were at Tombstone, and someone thought it would be funny to get a tour guide to come up to me while we were in the old western town out in Arizona, and they locked me in jail as a joke. And they all took pictures and thought it was funny.
Very interesting. Another question. Were you state president in your home state before you were national president?
So that was an interesting question. I was not. I was on the national board, even though I was not state president, and I had an opportunity. I'm kind of an old school kind of guy, and I'm sure people before me would say they're old school, and I'm a young whippersnapper, and how they did it back in the day was a lot harder. And, I would say that how it's done today is probably a little bit more easier to get on national board than it was in my day. But people were chomping at the bit. We didn't have there was no such thing as an unopposed election, which is pretty much commonplace now, and it's sad to see at national conventions. But back in my day, my first national office, this was probably 2004, you would have 4 or 5 people running per office. So you would do 5 or 6 runoffs nonstop all day. I mean, the election process was probably the most painstaking part of the entire convention. People are sitting there biting their nails, pacing back and forth during lunch. So I had the opportunity to run for national office, and I knew that if I didn't seize this moment now, I may not get another shot because it was just so competitive to be on national board. So I was next in line to be state president, and at the national non-com, they called me and said, "We want you to be part of it." And I said, "Absolutely." But I was waiting to see if they were going to call me, and at the same time, the state non-com meeting happened. And they called me and said, "Hey, we're ready to appoint you to national president." And I turned it down. So some of the senior leaders in the state were kind of thrown off by it. It kind of, some would say it kind of was a pivotal point in changing the dynamic of Georgia State for a couple of years. But I knew I had a great person coming up behind me that was going to take over, and she did really well. So I don't think Georgia skipped a beat. I wouldn't have done it if I didn't feel confident in the person coming in behind me that could do the job. Because at the time I was first vice president for the state, and so yeah, I was not. I was one of the few that that can say that you can go all the way to the top and not have to do the state president.
What really was one of the main things that influenced your choosing for your national project? I know sometimes it's some sort of childhood memory or like field trip you went on. I've heard about that. What was one thing that really influenced yours?
I'm gonna throw a name out there that not a lot of people know, but he was the guy that really gave me my start, and I really owe a lot to him, and not a lot of people give him enough credit for what he's done. But Honorary National President Patrick Reedy, shout out if he's listening, he gave me my start at the Mass Personal National Board, and one of his stops was in Richmond, Virginia for Mid-Southern. And the tour for Mid-Southern was St. John's Church in Richmond. And I was just amazed at how well they did this reenactment. It was awesome, and I got enthralled in it. Because usually, this was back in the day where you didn't have texting and not everybody had cell phones. Mm-hmm. So when you're on the national board, you're not sitting there looking down at your phone, or, you're not really experiencing the regional tour like you would living in the moment. So back then, when you were sitting there, you either had a choice to get engaged or fall asleep. And I really enjoyed it. I loved every second of it. And, I took pictures with reenactors. They have an amazing cemetery in front of that church, and it's right smack dab in the middle of Richmond. And I just loved it. So naturally, that was my first go-to when I was picking out my national project, because it was the very spark that lit the fires of the revolution. Because Virginia would have never raised the Continental Army if it hadn't been for them choosing to secede from Britain. And that's what that Continental Congress happened in Virginia with, Patrick Henry being there. George Washington was there speaking about raising funds for a Continental Army. So that's really where it all started. And that, to me, that was important.
Mm-hmm. That's so cool. I know there's a lot of tour stops that impact a lot of national projects. It sounds like a really cool place. I think I've seen something about it, and we should go.
I highly recommend it. Mm-hmm. You haven't been there. They're really well done, rehearsed, reenactment, and there's a lot of good historical significance there. It's a beautiful church.
Mm-hmm. I'll add it to my list of places to go. And so how old were you when you joined CAR, or when you first really got out?
So my grandmother kind of got my mom into it. My mom and my grandmother kind of went into it together. Mm-hmm. And at one point in time, we were one of the only few families in VAR as a whole that had 4 active generations at one current time. So my great-grandmother was still living. She was 97 and still kicking and going around. And she went to my sister's debutante ball. So at one event, we had my great-grandmother, my grandmother, my mom, and my sister. And we have a beautiful picture on a staircase at one of the balls there. So that was kind of one of my first initial memories. And then we started going and getting involved in local society things. And then I became more involved on the state level, then from state to the regional levels. But I would probably say, 5 or 6. But it definitely was probably the most influential part of my life, for sure, at that age.
Are you still involved in CAR today, and in what ways?
For this whole, COVID-19 thing, and, it's definitely changed the whole dynamic of how things are going, not just CAR, but as a country as a whole. Even the world. I was planning on coming because I know that it was the anniversary of National Convention, and I really wanted to be there for that. I have been a part of a few regionals here and there, but I think it's important to, there's a level of respect to the organization that when it's no longer your time, it's hard to kind of step back. Some have done that better than others, but I think it's important to let the new breed come in, kind of test their waters, get their feet wet. You got to be able to spark change, because if you don't change, you're destined to perish. And a lot of people need to know that, with new technology, just like you're doing, you're bringing CAR to people who are stuck in their houses. So major kudos to you for that. But I like to influence. I check in on some of my former pages, former aides, and see how they're doing. And if they have any questions, that they can reach out to me. I'm always here as a resource, but I'm one of those, I don't really need a senior title to feel official. I don't need a big sash to make me feel important to know that I'm helping out. I'm a resource, but I don't impose myself, I guess that's the best way I can say. If someone needs to, you'd be surprised what can get done when no one wants the credit. And it's not my time anymore. It's the new generation's time. And if I can help move the generation, move the needle forward, then I feel like I've done my job.
Mm-hmm. And the last question we have is, do you have any advice for future national presidents or members of CIR today who wish to be national president in the future?
Ooh, that's a good one. That's probably, wow. I would say if you're going to be national president, make it interesting. Pick something that people are going to be excited about, something that's going to get everybody involved, but aim towards the kids, because teenagers, CAR is such a difficult thing, because if you don't keep them enthralled in what they're doing, parents can influence and say, hey, we need to go. This is part of your development. It's important to you. But if you don't catch them early, then you lose them to sporting events. You lose them to extracurricular activities. You lose them to, oh, this is stupid. I don't want to do it. We're going to sit there and dress up. I don't want to do that. You lose that. But if you get them early, then it becomes ingrained in their personality. It becomes ingrained in their DNA that this is part of who they are.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lifestyle. CAR is a lifestyle. It's not about the ribbons. It's not about the historical sites that you visit. It's not about, who's got the prettiest dress or who's got the nicest clothes.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lifestyle of, these are my family. But for someone who's a CAR national president, do your research. Find a national president or national presidents that you can read up on, ask them questions, pick their brain, be part of who they are. Because for me, I've got a list of national presidents that were humongous in my development. I would like to say the greatest national president of all time, in my personal opinion, that I've experienced, would probably be Thomas Taylor of Virginia. He, by far, was probably the best national president I've ever seen. Bobby Fitch, Patrick Reed, the Sweeney boys, those guys made it so people like me could do it and do it with some style. I would say pick something about yourself that's a personality trait or a physical trait that you can accentuate, but people can be funny about it, but also make you stand out. For me, I always made jokes about my hair because I was always trying to play off as, I'm the pretty boy. But, if you can't laugh at yourself first, then no one's going to take you seriously. Mm-hmm. So I always made fun of, don't touch my hair. It's going to make me look bad. I would just say focus on one office at a time. Have the end goal, but focus on one office at a time. Make an impact on the kids and make it sincere. Don't hang out with the kids just to get their votes, because it becomes very obvious that you're not genuine. Make it a part of something to where they get excited to see you, almost like it's a celebrity. I can't wait to see so-and-so, or I can't wait to see so-and-so, or, oh, that's so-and-so in the skit. Be someone, be genuine, focus on the kids, and those kids will remember you 20 years from now. Just like I'm saying national presidents, and I have a plethora of national officers that I can remember that I personally probably couldn't remember an entire conversation I had with them one-on-one, but I know who they are because of what they've done and how I remember and how they've influenced me through their skits, through someone putting me on their shoulders at a national convention and walking around during the CAR song, or a girl holding my hand when I was going on a national tour, stuff like that. That stuff's important. And if you invest in them, they will invest in the organization. So that's probably the best thing I can say.
Okay, thank you. So that was the last question we had. I just wanted to say thank you for meeting with me. Thank you for letting us interview you. It's been a great experience, and thank you so much.
No, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. Love to reach out. If you ever need me, just let me know.
All right, thank you.
We hope you enjoyed the interview.
We wanted to extend our thanks to Kevin Spence Baker for interviewing with me, and it was really fun. We wanted to thank you for bringing the idea to us.
It was an amazing idea, and we will be using it in the future.
Yes. And Kevin Spence Baker was national president before our time, actually the year before our time.
So it was great to hear what CAR was like before us and the things that they were doing.
1 year, but whatever. So you might, like I said earlier about how we didn't have a commercial today, we wanted to extend this out to you guys in a way.
So if you have any ideas for a commercial, or if you want to do your own commercial, please send them in to us. Anything about CAR.
Make them about 45 seconds is probably enough.
Yeah.
So we want to thank you for tuning in, and we will see you next month.
Bye.
Doodle.
We hope you enjoyed this month's episode. Be sure to check us out on Buzzsprout, iTunes, and Spotify. Also, make sure to like us on Facebook and Instagram. If you haven't heard Season 1 already, you can find those episodes on the Talking CAR Facebook page. Be sure to tune in next month.